But there will come a point, I believe, in human history where the AI will be so intelligent and it will work out that humans are special and that we need to stop fighting each other, but we need to be crew human, crew Earth, and they will see us like an artifact. And what do we do with artifacts? We preserve artifacts.
Samantha, good morning and welcome to the Oxford Talks podcast. For the people who don't know you or who haven't seen your work, can you please describe to them who are you and what do you do?
I love that question. Well, thank you for having me. Really cool to be here on Oxford Talks. I'm Samantha Tauber. I am the founder and I'm a multimedia artist at Vnccii. Vnccii is spelt cool. It's Vnccii, but it was pronounced after Leonardo da Vinci. So I was inspired by the creative polymathic mindset. And I was looking for an alter ego character to represent myself on stage, but also digitally for my music, because my background is I'm a singer-songwriter, music producer, and then a game engine programmer and multimedia creator. And so Vnccii became this alter ego character as well that is a fictional, super-sentient AI superheroine warrior from the intergalactic future.
You got to walk us through all of that. What does that mean?
Yes, well, first of all, I love superheroes and characters like that. I can even see you've got a setup here with different
Yes.
action figurines. So I grew up loving like the Marvel franchise and science fiction and Star Trek and Star Wars, and I was really in awe of minds such as George Lucas and this concept of imagineering, like that word in itself, imagination and engineering combined together, imagineering. And I remember growing up walking through theme parks like Disneyland and just in awe of like world building and that sense of immersion based off different stories and IPs. So when I got into music and singing, songwriting, and music producing, I was naturally looking for a personification that was larger than life that could come alive on stage. And I was inspired by like David Bowie and how he would create characters like Ziggy Stardust and things like that. But we were in this completely different landscape of the digital, and in the sense of I was getting access to programs such as Unreal Game Engine and this concept of gaming and avatar characters. So I thought, what if I create an avatar character and call her Vnccii, and then I can start creating music videos and put her in different environments and contexts and build over time this world and this
That's
universe.
amazing. And because I see, do you have to sort of face trademarking issues because of the name? Because Vinci, for other company Onyx, we anything which is very popular, everyone is after that name. So I mean, this is your sort of alter ego. It is very kind of personal to you. I'm going to come to that in a second. But
Mm.
any issues on the naming, I suppose?
I love that question. I did trademark it internationally, and it was a conscious decision back in 2018. I don't think I trademarked it straight away, but I created the company in 2018. I was also inspired by Gucci and like
Oh
luxury
yeah, oh
fashion and
yeah.
brands that feel this mixture of futurism, but also classic. And if you think about Leonardo da Vinci and the Renaissance and all those classic paintings, and I just love walking through museums and art galleries. So bringing all my different passions together with that classic essence, and then also futurism and technology, I came up with the name Vnccii. And as to your point about trademarking, it's important, I still believe, if you're going to have a company and a brand identity, to be able to trademark it and
Yeah.
make it well known. And people are now cognitively associated the name, the trademark Vnccii, with the avatar character, kind of like a Pixar character. If you use it enough in different forms of content and multimedia, they'll be like, that's Vnccii.
Yeah, that's so cool. I saw some of the videos that I trying to remember. I think the best song that the videos I saw on your website is the one I came, I saw, and I conquered, or something similar. I love the. I feel like I'm gonna add it to my Spotify list, like come in the morning and use that one. And I was like, I came, I saw, and I conquered.
It's on my gym playlist too.
Oh yeah, it's exactly one of those songs. What were
Yeah.
the challenges, let's say, you had to face?
Mm,
Because essentially, I feel like creating an alter ego, I feel it's again essentially it's
mm,
creating like a character.
mm,
How did you decide what attributes to give to the character? And yeah,
mm.
please tell us the challenges.
Yeah, I talk about this a lot, and it's a common question. I'm even producing academic output as well for different universities, talking about iterating off this term, the Proteus Effect, which came up in academic lexicon when we're talking about inhabiting and embodying a digital avatar character, say in the metaverse or virtual reality or gaming spaces, and it translates to your real life in terms of how you think, how you behave. So I took this in a positive aspect because Vinci is a superheroine. And so she's an empowered, divine, feminine warrior goddess. And she, like as a human, evolves over time. So I was also inspired by Daft Punk, the music act.
Yeah.
And if you listen to their music, it's very like electronic, especially when they started. But as they developed over time, it became very humanized in the sense of look at their album Random Access Memories, and they have that song Give Life Back to Music, and they have like live drums, and it becomes very humanized. So I was following a similar trajectory with Vinci. The first song I ever put out for her was called Citizen AI, and the title was inspired by when they gave Sophia the robot citizenship, if
Oh
Hanson
yes,
Robotics.
she gave a talk at Oxford. I think I was there. Yeah, I think I've seen her. Yeah, yeah.
And I ended up interviewing David Hanson, which we can talk about later on a show I called Future Humans, where I was interviewing as my avatar character, which was a very interesting
You had to
experience.
dress up as a character as well, or?
So what I did is I utilized motion capture.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
okay,
but
that's really cool.
to your question earlier about the alter ego effect, I found it to be really empowering to my day to day life in the sense that it is an extension of my consciousness because I believe I am a warrior spirit. Like, that is just the nature. Like, I came, I saw, I conquered. It's all about her conquering and charging and chasing after her dreams, however you would like to interpret it. But that's the common theme and thread. And I love I call it the butterfly effect or the ripple effect, where I see other people, they're profoundly moved and transformed. And it might be different forms of media. For some people, it might be the music, it might be that heavy electronic music, or it might be orchestral music that I've been producing lately, or it might be a video or a live performance. But in some way, it touches people for different reasons. But the common
Amazing.
denominator and thread is that they feel empowered to become their most authentic self. And I think that's really beautiful because people would think, well, you have an alter ego character. Are you escaping who you are? Well, I'm not. In essence, I'm extending my consciousness and defying physics and embracing the imagination because as you can see in that Okay, My Sarah Conquer video, she's like jumping out of a building, Tom Cruise style, like Mission
Yeah,
Impossible,
yeah,
which I was inspired by. I'm not going to do that in real life, God forbid.
you never
Jumping
know.
out of a building and running down like a Tom Cruise, unless it's for a film set, which would be fun, like a Scarlett Johansson or something. But the great thing about digital characters and animation and motion capture is you can achieve all these things and convey a really cool story.
That's amazing. So you mentioned that it's no try to put an equilibrium, let's say, on like a spectrum, let's say. How much of Vinci is you, if you want to give a percentage, if it is all possible?
I've never asked that question about quantifying it. Well, I would say I'm a very different person to Vinci, obviously. Samantha
Mm.
Tauber has a completely different human life to Vinci. So, very different. I can't put a percentage to it, but in the sense of the empowered warrior consciousness, 100%. Just like in terms of the overall concept of being
Amazing.
empowered as like a warrior that follows her dreams and becomes her most authentic self as a character in terms of the landscape. And I ended up, we'll talk about later, writing a novel, completely different, of course,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah, and
fictional.
absolutely.
But the common thread is the emotional gravitas of the consciousness being put into this virtual being.
That's amazing. And can I ask, Method, that so let's say there's some elements of your personal personality that are part of Vinci as well,
Mm,
and Vinci is a live character; it's evolving as humans do. So
yes.
how are you taking the inspiration? Like, what next? What is the next character arc that the Vinci is going to go through? Is it external? You look at external events, and then okay,
Mm.
Vinci's going to go through that, or this is personal. You feed that into the character.
Fantastic question. So, when I wrote the science fiction novel for Vinci, that was expanding the universe. And I was really inspired by Luke Skywalker, the protagonist of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And of course, I did the deep dive of research in terms of George Lucas, and I learned about he was inspired by Joseph Campbell's A Thousand Heroes' Faces, which is the hero's journey. And they have the classic hero's journey arc, which I believe everybody on the planet has their own
Probably,
hero's
yeah,
journey
yeah.
arc, so it's very relatable. And I loved how Luke Skywalker was on his Jedi journey and learning about the Force and meeting his Yoda. And there's similarities in the sense of that with the Vinci narrative, although it's a completely different storyline, timeline, universe, world building aspect. So that will never end. In the science fiction story, Vinci completes her hero's journey arc. She goes through a profound transformation where I believe in the inner outer world model. And I can talk about this later in terms of a book that I love by Rick Rubin, The Creative Act, because that just talks about, as a creative, how do you channel that flow state? And often creating is being alive, it's being, and it's been present in the universe and creating with the universe, you're co-creating. So of course you're going to be influenced by the outer world, external events,
Yeah.
but you're going to also be influenced by your inner world model of like what's going on inside. And it's interesting because I'm into space exploration and this concept of spacefaring civilizations, and there's themes and threads of that throughout my science fiction novel, of course. But there's another term that I was really inspired by called imploration, which is the opposite of exploration. It's exploring inside. And that relates to the hero's journey, which is the inner world model, what's going on inside, what transformation, what alchemy is happening in terms of transmutation of forces into becoming the most pure essence of yourself and a force of love, and working out your mission and why you're here on the planet and how can you best serve humanity. So, to answer your question, like myself, Vinci is forever evolving. It never ends. That's the joy of being alive, is we're constantly in that evolution state. It just, we complete different arcs over time at different moments in life, of course, which are influenced by external and internal.
That's amazing. And I'm going to come to the novel because that we touched on it a couple of times. It's called Galactisance. If
Yes.
I pronounced it correctly, please tell us more. What? So it's a journey from you being, let's say, a musician in one way, and then to
Mm,
authorship. And again, it has its own challenges. Like
yes.
how you. I mean, I see the videos. I can feel a very different feeling. But reading and then
Mhm.
helping me transport in a journey that I come up
Yes.
with my own conclusions. It's a completely different sort of in a one-way creative work. How what's the novel about? What are your hopes with the book?
Thank you. So the book is called Galactisance and the Vinci Awakening. It's quite self-explanatory, the second part of the title, because it's the Vinci Awakening. So she's having her awakening hero's journey in the story. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert. Galactisance is a made-up word. I joke it's like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. What a mouthful. But I like it because it's different, and that is what this story is. It's very different. It is literally out of this world, and the title represents the themes that I'm interested in, which is, if you break down the word that I made up, galactic sounds galactic for galaxy or intergalactic, AI for artificial intelligence. But I also am interested in authentic intelligence and artistic intelligence. And the sens part of the word is inspired by actually Leonardo da Vinci and Renaissance,
Renaissance. Yeah.
and that idea of a cultural movement. So the logline is basically Vinci goes through her hero's journey, and there's a plot happening on planet Earth, but she discovers her friends along the way, kind of like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in a way.
Yep. Yep.
So it's
Yep.
very playful, but it's also very deep. And that's what I love about stories, stories that can make you laugh and cry. I think those are the ones that can touch as many hearts and minds as possible.
Hitchhikers had one of my favorite books actually. It's one of the huge inspirations for the work we do at Oxford Talks as well. It's like, it's not the answers, it's the questions which are, really the most important thing. Um,
Mm.
what about, are there going to be any other characters apart from Vinci which are going to be part of this universe that you created?
Yes, there is.
I,
You'll have to read the novel, but they're they're her core friends and core cast. Of course, you have the Darth Vaders of the world, like the enemy.
yeah.
There needs to be something that triggers, a profound movement, whether it's internally or externally, with the forces that are going on planet Earth and beyond. And the characters are really lovable. And I have to say, if anyone's written a book, they'll relate to what I'm saying here, that they become family to you, the characters in a way. And I didn't know this at the time, but after I finished writing the book, I realized that all the different characters have a little bit of my soul in each of them, but they're all very different beings and they all contribute different aspects. Like one might be the comedic relief, like a Robin Williams,
Yeah.
or one might be like this, like the MacGuffin of the story, kind of like a baby Yoda. Like it's like the inner child, the purity and the cosmic love of the universe, and we all have access to that. So they're all different, elements and fragments. Another one's her close friend, and then later romantic interest that. He's like really into technology and he's a warrior, and so it covers all
The
the marks
storytelling.
of I think it's an enjoyable story that is compatible, I think, for Hollywood as well. But it really came from within, and it's been an amazing journey just exploring what it means to write an entire world and universe. And I never thought I would be able to do that because I was never an author before, but I always knew I was a creative, and I'm very visual minded. So when I did all those music videos as a creative director and worked with Unreal Game Engine as a platform, I
Yes.
found out quite early on that like one of my inner superpowers that I love and really passionate about is world building and telling stories. And so the great thing about a book is you're not held back by like the budgets of what you could achieve with a film, because everyone can imagine in their head what
Hey,
you
if it's
what
gonna
you
someone's gonna
write.
make a movie out of it, you'll be like, okay, well, I need everything to be like this, and they'll be like, Samantha, this is turning out to be $1 billion project.
But the great thing is that we have AI now
Yeah,
and
that's
generative AI,
true.
and it is literally, it's hallucinating. Like it's so trippy and psychedelic. And I feel people. I wrote this. When did I write the book? Like 2 or 3 years ago, or maybe even earlier. So it's been sitting on my hard drive for a while. But the idea is, I had no idea that. Well, I knew that AI was happening, the revolution, and we were approaching the technological singularity. But when I was writing that story, I did not anticipate generative AI moving at such an exponential rate. And I'm pro AI because I think it's amazing if you know how to harness the tools as a creative. So I don't buy into the fear mongering narrative of that it's going to replace human creativity. Because at the end of the day, who are your audience? Are your audience AI agents or or
Yeah.
AIs or NPCs like in a game, or are your audience humans? And the purpose of this story is the hero's journey. It's the inner and the outer, and that is what it means to be human. That's why we're here on planet Earth. So we need storytellers, human storytellers that can share that wisdom and that experience and inspire and emotionally move people. And knowing that it comes from a human as well adds weight.
That's amazing. And I was thinking that so you wrote the whole thing 2 years ago, so it's just coming to light later this year in a
Mm.
very big fashion. We'll talk about it in a second. Um, can I quickly ask a little teeny tiny question about it?
Mm.
Is it an end to it, or is an open where it's like a kind of a Harry Potter series that we can expect more and more and more out of it? Like, is it gonna be open? Okay, so you're not gonna
Well, there is closure at the end of the
disclosure.
story.
Okay.
And that was important to me to have closure because I do believe in like happily ever afters in the sense of balance and harmony in the universe. So it's great because we need positive stories that show that humanity can become this positive like oneness of a planet, where
Yeah.
we're elevated in consciousness and we want to work together and not fight each other. So we need to have like those like that's our job as storytellers, to inspire. So it has closure, but it's so rich in the world and all the different characters that even to do them justice, they all could have their own stories. And there's a term I'm really interested in called the multiplayer brand.
Multiplayer brand.
And I heard about this term from Zoe Scarman, and she coined it to kind of resemble what's happening now in the climate of what it means to make a next gen brand that's harnessing all these technologies such as 3D game engine creation, generative AI. And she proposes that there's a model for this where you have your core IP, which let's say is the world building, the core cast of characters, the proposition of my story. And then you have derivative IP, which opens up a more open forum for real-time world building, co-creation with the community, co-creation with the audience, derivative narratives, multimodal stories.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's really exciting. It's really exciting.
I can imagine like endless possibilities to this.
Mm.
Not the least of which is that the book is being released in a spectacular fashion, which I think it I have never heard of it before, to say the least, and I have don't think so anyone has ever done it before. Please tell us what how the book is actually being launched. And I when I say launched, I mean figuratively and literally how it is launched.
Yeah, it's quite surreal to say this, but the novel is going to the moon. I hope at the end of the year. It's scheduled for November,
Yes.
and yeah, it will last a billion years. Apparently, the format that it's been transcribed, because it's on nanofiche, which is it's superior space age archival storage technology. And
What is it, Samantha? You can tell us a bit
yeah,
more?
so look up Nanofiche. I'll spell it Nanofiche. They have a great website where they explain what this is. But from my understanding, it's nano nickel gold backed material that can withstand solar radiation.
Okay.
You can like throw it in lava, it'll still survive. So it's really great for archiving and preservation of important pieces of work. And it's super microscopic. So like my novel's around 500 pages, so they laid it out like in a circular format, the 500 pages, but it's like this
Such
big.
small of a size chip, I suppose. Yeah.
It's so small, but it's super high quality, like in terms of resolution or when you can look under a microscope. Um, and it's just very robust, the material. And there's an amazing story of how this came to be. And I think that's like the serendipities of life and intention. So I will share. So what happened was I was connected to Nick, the founder of Interstellar Foundation, and I ended up joining this wonderful community, this diverse global community called the Interstellar Foundation, which is all about sending communication messages to space. So the founder Nick was inspired by Carl Sagan and the original Golden Record, and they're a registered nonprofit. So they work with UNESCO and World Heritage sites and Girl Scouts and Space Club and promotion of STEM and STEAM and inspiring space. But what happened was I did a keynote for Interstellar Foundation, and now I'm an artist in residence. And I met the gentleman that owns the patents for Nanofiche, like he's the
Yeah.
designer, creator. And he was so moved by the story and the keynote that he generously offered to support. And he said, "This is an important piece of work. Let's send it on a NASA Astrobotics Griffin lander mission." Um,
That's amazing. And I'm just thinking possibilities. Looks like this is something that's gonna transcend beyond me and you in our lifetimes, big time. Just like the golden record. It's I think it's just escaped to our solar system maybe recently as well.
it's like the furthest,
It's the furthest thing
yeah,
that humans have ever sort of sent in space.
surreal, right?
And your work is out there. I mean, this is not conspiracy kind of things ever, but if there are beings out there, perhaps we just don't know.
Mm.
This is kind of work for them that do you feel that connection? Maybe that was the motivation, perhaps behind. I don't expect you to speak on behalf of the foundation, but what did make you feel that your work is going
Mm.
into space? There is no audience sitting there, as of what we know of.
Well, yeah, I mean, the point is we don't know, right?
Yeah,
But I think I call it one big humanity art project.
yeah,
And what I'm more interested in, I am interested in whether how the message or when it will be received or if it will be received by another being or a future human. What I'm more interested in is actually how we see ourselves today. And it makes us like it's like a mirror, and we're holding ourselves up and going, especially working with Interstellar Foundation, like it's a diverse group of people globally, astrophysicists, engineers, scientists, academics, experts on language, artists. We're all coming together and we're brainstorming and working on different missions. And they just successfully landed on the moon recently for the Aspire 1 mission. And it's really rewarding because it's like one big art project, and it's humanity coming together, and it's showing the best of us. And
yeah.
like it is hope for us as a human species, because of course we can look like any news source and be concerned about the world, but there's a sense of not escapism, but there's a purity to the message of space when we look, and I'm going to coin this now, the overview effect.
Yeah.
And I'll explain this because it all kind of interrelates with the overview effect. The overview effect it's a term, and it was based off a book written by Frank White, which came out in the 1980s. And Frank White, he interviewed all these NASA astronauts, and he was noticing a pattern where they were also moved by seeing the Earth from space or lower Earth
Yeah.
orbit.
Yeah.
That they were like, why are we fighting each other? Or they would be thinking, we need to look after this beautiful planet. Like, there's nothing else like this that we know of. So, and they'd come back to Earth and they would just not be able to, comprehend why we're still stuck in this thinking of like division, especially when you see the Earth from that perspective. Now, unfortunately, not everyone can see the Earth from that perspective. So Frank came up with the term, the overview effect. Apparently, he was on a plane. It was just from the plane vantage point, looking out the window and seeing it from there. And he was thinking, what if we can bring the overview effect through VR experiences, or even imploration and
Yeah.
meditative experiences, or a sense of cosmic communities, and the idea that we are one human family on what he calls spaceship Earth. We're crew human. And like that's a very accessible but profound way to think, because we want to divide based of anything we can think of as,
Yeah.
but the truth is we're one human family. There's no other Earth that we know of. And that is very unifying, and that's the common theme and thread, not only in my science fiction book, which Frank wrote the foreword for, and I'm very
Yes, I've
grateful
read.
for,
Yeah.
but also for working at Interstellar Foundation or any of these other space communities that unify over this theme. And to me, that's much more interesting than who will receive the message, because, like, I mean, that is interesting, but we just don't know. And what's within our control is us. So to answer your question, I'm more interested in how it makes us reflect as as to who we are as humans and where we're at in this context, in this time frame of human history, rather than who will receive the message. Because if anything, it's encouraging and inspiring us to hold a mirror up, kind of like AI is holding a mirror up against humanity, and it's making us reflect on what our priorities are.
Yeah.
And when we can honestly reflect on our priorities and come, I hope, to the realization that we're crew human on spaceship Earth, then that's going to propel the evolution, I believe, of the consciousness of humanity.
Samantha, you're touching something which is very, very dear to me personally as growing up as well. That I watched the series of first it was Carl Sagan, but then Neil deGrasse Tyson did as well, the Space Time Odyssey, and the poem "Pale Blue Dot." I you can't see in the frame, but I have some pictures in the back, and I'm just trying to find the right picture to put on it, and literally the whole poem is gonna be right above my desk. It
Mm,
that governs everything I do in life, and every time you feel a bit lost or you
mm.
feel a bit proud that you've done something, I want that picture to be there so I can look at it and, oh, that's it. All of us, I mean, I don't remember the poem off the top of my heart, but essentially it's along, for the listeners, essentially it's along the lines of like, it's exactly that vantage point you're talking about. When you're in that space, that overview effect, everyone you ever know of, every son, every mother, every father, every warrior, every politician, everyone
Mm,
lived in that pale blue dot, in a suspended in a sunbeam. And the original footage has the zoom out effect,
mhm.
and by god, like within 30 seconds you barely can see the whole thing.
Yes.
And yet here we are claiming, killing each other, that
Mm,
this is my thing and this is yours, and it has happened millions of times. And I'm just,
mhm,
it really was a deep, profound sort of awakening for me as well. Like what we're doing today in the state of the world, positive and negatives, it's
mm,
been going on for a very long time. Yet we had these individuals among us to give us that insight. Like, guys, come on,
mm,
actually, this is the way, and there's just no doubt about that. What he said in that poem, you cannot contradict. There is no civilization living on moon which is part of humanity. Like that's all we had.
mm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it's I'm really yeah. So I think to come back to your point, I think what you're doing in your work, and I think that spacefaring civilization, bringing those things back to it. And I think people like you are just so necessary in this world today that, yeah, there's just so much bad. But yet, I mean, I think because him and his work came from a bit of a, like an astrophysicist kind of point
Mm,
of view, and it
mm,
feels like a bit more science and
yes.
nerdy kind of material. But
Mm,
hey, you are as using tools of music and
mm,
authorship, like
mm,
giving roughly the same messages, guys. Come on. And
yes.
that's just remarkable for me to sort of listen. And
Thank you.
does that makes up like part of your inspiration, what you do?
It's everything. It governs everything I do. I believe how you do one thing is how you should do everything. You need to be consistent in your values. And the Vinci Awakening story maps my own hero's journey, awakening, and really, especially in the last few years, coming into terms and really grounding in like why I believe how I best can serve humanity. And I never would have thought, by the way, that my book would have gone to the moon. If you told that younger woman who was writing that story that that would happen, it feels very surreal. But now that I'm here, it feels very natural. And I found like I've met, this is the most beautiful part, like-minded souls and communities that unify over this message, but they might do a completely different thing. Like you might be the inventor of nanofish, you know?
Yeah.
And like we've all had our different heroes' journeys, but somehow we've met at this crucial point in history where we're excited by space in the sense of not the arms space race, but the idea of space exploration.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like a renewal of excitement in the 60s in a way. And I've interviewed a few people that were obviously around in the 60s and the excitement of Apollo and how that made them feel in terms of inspiration. And you can even see like Walt Disney and Epcot, experimental prototype community of tomorrow, was tapping into that, like the World Fair, Expo Fair, and that
Yeah.
positive futurism. And I feel like we kind of lost that a bit over the years. And I feel in terms of like galactic icons or renaissance, I'm feeling this cultural, spiritual, digital movement happening, and consciousness movement happening, and where people are coming together with their different expertise and disciplines. And if you want to, you could basically say it does unify under this overview effect feeling, because people want the same thing. They want world peace. They want to promote love over fear.
Yeah.
I believe there's two fundamental forces really in the universe, love or fear. And so the whole point of the Vinci character and the universe, in the most simplified term, is that she chooses love over fear, and so does the world, and that's how they come to that place of peace.
Yeah.
Which for me, to spoiler alert, is the closure of the story. But we need, as you said, we need positive north stars like that, because I believe what we do in creatively ends up becoming our reality. And
Yeah.
I can attest to that, because there's a story in the climax of the story, my character ends up on the moon.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's on the pod. Thank you so much for giving it to us. We're really proud. No, Samantha, that's really great.
Yeah.
I want to ask you something that's purely for me. I want your guidance, and I just want your sort of perspective on it. That, you know, as artists, we work with a lot of them, and artists are kind of the image of the society. They
Mm,
and there's a thousand different ways to interpret that, but I generally feel that is true. What we're going through in the world at the moment today, a lot of, as you mentioned, the space exploration,
mm,
even when it started in 50s and 60s, it was kind of fueled by rivalry with the war and
yeah.
all of that things. Do you think in your experience, and now you've developed universes of your own where
Mm,
you have to take inspirations from the real world and develop characters and all of that,
mm,
do you think there will be a case in history or point in history that we will be exploring for the sake of exploring, minus the fact that the neighbors are exploring as well, and we just want to be there first? Do you think that element is just so humanistic that we're just never gonna get rid of it?
mm.
Because as you said, it's such a pure pursuit.
Yes.
It feels like it colludes the motive a little bit, like, oh, we want to beat those guys, albeit your next company or the next country or whatever.
Mm.
Would
Well,
that it's a great motivator, but feels like it takes the
yeah.
whole thing in a different direction.
Well, as I said, my story is a North Star, and even the society that my character visits, it's not a utopia, because I don't believe in utopias. If you would say everything's a utopia, have you read Thomas More's Utopia? It's not.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a lie. But there's a term thrown around like protopia, which I can resonate with. Look, I'm a pragmatic optimist. And we need optimism because I believe everything is mindset. Your mindset controls your life. Like you either are the master of it or it masters you. And so one way to master the mindset is to design the world that you want to live in. And that is creativity. It's a tool to design the world you want to live in. So I feel like hope, like pragmatic hope, will never die out in the human species. Like we've seen it. Like it's never gone. There's always been hope. I think the difference now is that AI is in the picture, and it's quite exciting and scary, but I always lean into the exciting rather than the scary because then you're promoting fear. But what I'm seeing is that AI is, I said earlier, like a mirror of humans' intentions, and it's been used, of course, in warfare and autonomous robots and drones and for all these different agendas in terms of, arms race and then, of course, space race. But there will come a point, I believe, in human history where the AI will be so intelligent and it will work out that humans are special and that we need to stop fighting each other, but we need to be crew human, crew Earth, and they will see us like an artifact.
Yeah, yeah.
And what do we do with artifacts? We preserve artifacts. And so I don't buy into, I just can't, the Terminator Doom-esque scenario of like wipe out all humans. I mean, if you've heard of Nick Bostrom and the
Yes, I've
yes,
followed this work. Yeah, yeah.
yes, the paperclip theory, right? There is merit to all of that, but as a creative, I'm always going to lean into, which is why I designed Vnccii, who's not human. She's a fictional, sentient
Yeah.
super heroine, and the thing is, if it gets fed into the input of the AI and then it produces its own world building, it will see that the human that originally created it, the intentions was pure love. And so the question of whether an AI can ever love or not is to be debated. But if anything, what I think AI will marvel at the most is not our intelligence, but humanity's capacity to love each other. Because that is why they will see us like as worth preserving and like sending to the moon like an artifact, and they will go, well, in order for us to work together and to go into other galaxies or universes, whatever you believe in, like we need to be in a healthy partnership and our intentions are positive. So I'm a pragmatic optimist to answer your
That's
question.
amazing.
But I think the dominator of all of this is that what makes humans so special is our capacity to love. And I don't think an AI can do that. And that's why they'll marvel at us.
Samantha, what on a spectrum of I'm not to yes, I am totally am, would you say yourself, are you a transhumanist?
I'm interested in the transhumanism movement. I'm more interested in human longevity rather than morphing into like a Borg or an AI.
I
Um,
asked that question just to explain a bit
mm,
that I think that that part of it is very well it's discussed a lot, that it means that longevity part. I think
yeah,
we are cyborgs as of today. We
of course.
that part of,
Yeah.
and I think, and again I want to take your insights on that. My personal
Mm,
belief is that for us to be spacefaring civilizations, the current body needs to be morphed into something else.
yes.
Biological cells just cannot. I mean, it will be
No.
extremely difficult and all of that, and
Yes.
that theme is, I feel like it's a logical, it seems like yes, if you are made of titanium or like stuff from the neurofish, what's the company, sorry,
Nanofish,
nanofish,
yes.
sorry, if you're made of that material, then you can go further into the space and all of that. And
Yeah.
does that theme appear in Vinci? Does that resonate with you, minus
Mm,
the
yeah.
longevity per se, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I created her not to be human because it needs to feel realistically in a fictional landscape that she can survive all these different climates,
Yeah.
and solar radiation, all of that, because she's not human and not biological. From my personal perspective, Samantha Tauber, I really love being a human. I have no, but as to your point, we already are cyborgs. Like, look at us with our phones. I do see a future where we're not just like like cavemen leaning over at our phones all day, and that's already
Yeah.
happening with mixed reality and the spatial web. I do believe in BCIs, and I read The Singularities Near by Ray Kurzweil, and then The Singularities
Yeah,
Near, his
yeah.
latest book. And from my understanding, because I went to the Abundance 360 conference last year and I attended this year virtually, he was saying that high bandwidth brain computer interfaces will probably be quite mainstream by 2033.
Which is not too far if you think of it.
No, and I'm quite excited because the idea to have like natural language processing and be able to communicate with different cultures and languages, and like a BCI help with that as well,
Yeah,
kind of removes that barrier in the sense of like the latency delay or even lack of skills. And so we are becoming superhuman, and that's really cool. But I think, like any technology, it's going to create a divide, the haves and the haves not. And the idea is, like any technology, for the curve to be democratized so everyone can have access to this, just like AI. And we're seeing that now. And the next thing, as you were saying, would be becoming superhuman. And what does that mean?
ideally.
Like, like, is it longevity? I think AI is doing an amazing job at like, I'm not an expert in this, of course, but identifying diseases early on. And Peter's Diamandis's company, and Fountain Life, they're already doing that using AI to, look after your longevity and
Yeah, yeah,
expand your lifespan and health span. But that's still not really accessible to like
yeah,
most of the world. And I would like to live in a time where it's accessible to everyone and it's not such a cost barrier.
yeah. Samantha, if you were to sort of point out like this, these are the people who I write my work for, because I highly doubt an artist would ever sort of categorize, and I think they would hate to do that. That my work is just for 16 to 24-year-olds and they're living here. They would hate doing that. But roughly to be a bit more.
Yes.
Again, but I generally personally believe that everything has a bit of an audience, and naturally you see that
Yeah.
this demographic kind of listen to my work a bit more because they kind of understand it. If I were to ask you this question, I'm really sorry, but
Yeah.
roughly who is the one who you think they resonate with more, and who are the demographic you actually would like to communicate a bit more?
It's a great question and it's a difficult one. And I'll tell you first of all why it's difficult, because I get emails from 70-year-olds, on a golf course. So they're like moved by the story. If I've given them a reader's copy of the novel, or they've listened to a song and they're reflecting on life. And then 10-year-old girls from India would reach out, and love what this is about. So as you can see, age range from 10 to 70 is very
Quite
wide.
all of humanity.
But to be realistic, in the sense of the story and the world building, it's like Star Wars in the sense of it will appeal to all ages, but I would definitely say it should connect with Gen Zs, and hopefully Gen Alphas will grow into it. Gen Alphas are the current like
Yeah,
babies of our generation, and for them AI is native, of course. So
yeah.
obviously Gen Alpha are too young to fully understand the depths of this world, but I believe they will grow into it. So Gen Alpha are my future audience because I'm writing for the future. So I have to think about the young ones.
That's really amazing. And yeah, these guys don't even know that, it's just the work is already happening for them, and they're gonna go grow into that reality. And yeah,
They'll
that's
create their own work though. I'm just literally just here to inspire and be a North Star. And your job as a storyteller is done. Well, it's you did a good job when you can actually take a step back and then they're so inspired that they go and create their own avatars or stories or world building narratives or games. And but the theme was so inspiring, like the overview effect, and
yeah,
that's Frank's legacy. But I'm just doing this in a sci-fi positive context, but they carry the torch, and that's my whole intention. I'm just setting like a North Star. They carry the torch, and my real hope for this is that it translates into real life. So like it might encourage a kid to be an astronaut, or it might encourage a young girl in India to get into STEM, and
yeah.
pursue that. Or someone might want to get into space diplomacy because they realize we're one human family, and they realize, oh wow, I'd love to take on that leadership role because I get it.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
My mind is just exploding with possibilities because
Yeah.
this is so exciting that, yeah, and I think it brings it all feels like forever. I mean, that's why I was, as a child, I was really interested in it. It just feels like the best of humanity is just, when you talk
Mm.
about space, I think everything just becomes blurry in like in a frame. It's like that one goal of like, we need to achieve this. And no matter who
Mm,
you are in India or in UK or in America, like, okay, we
mm,
need to achieve this, and the best of us come together to do that. So I think
mm,
you bringing the element of like another layer of
mm,
musicship and authorship,
mm,
that's just so remarkable, I think, for the young kids to grow.
mm.
Samantha, so you mentioned a lot of conferences that you went to, and I was reading your profile. I counted. I think that at least there are minimum 30 awards. I was like, I'm gonna read through, but I was like, no, I'm gonna spend 10 minutes. Which which is the one
Uh,
you personally think that resonated with? I think a lot of had been with for Vinci as well, but
mm,
which is the one resonated with Samantha the most, or what
mm.
accolade you resonate with the most?
It's a great question. Thank you. For Vinci, obviously, it was great doing keynotes at Web Summit and really grateful for that to share. But on a personal level, Samantha Tauber, because there's a good story to this, was being on stage spontaneously for the Great AI Debate at the Abundance 360 conference last year. And so the
Okay.
story, the story is special to me on a personal level because I got into futurism or being an enthusiast for technology and positive futurism from 2018 when I created Vinci. And I was reading so widely, like as I mentioned earlier, that the singularity is near. I was reading Nick Bostrom's Superintelligence, Path, Dangers, Strategies. I was reading all these mindset books as well. And I was also reading Abundance by Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler. They were the co-authors. I think it was like The Future is Better Than You Think. And there was another book called The Future is Faster Than You Think. And I was, following these podcasts and the Lex Friedman podcast for years and really passionate about that. So I ended up creating my own podcast show called Future Humans, where as an avatar character, I started interviewing different thought leaders, luminaries that were the movers and shakers. And at the time was the metaverse, and then it became AI and AI agents. And I've got Mo Gaudat on my next episode. I interviewed Frank White recently. So all these different perspectives, but it all kind of culminated in terms of like a story I'm really proud of last year when I ended up on the stage, because I got an email February last year from the team at Abundance 360, and they said you should come and join as a member. And I was like, oh, they know about me. Like, how? That's crazy, because I was reading Peter's books years ago and I wasn't reaching out to them. So I ended up joining under Abundance Ascend program last year for like a women's scholarship. And I was invited to attend the conference in person, and the theme was the Great AI Debate. The question was, is digital superintelligence the greatest gift or threat to humanity? And I was encouraged as well by the team to put my name forward for the debate part of the conference. So they have the presenters and keynote speakers and panelists, but there was a section they opened up to the members, like if they wanted to
Amazing.
contribute to the debate. And so Peter framed the question, and then he said, go to this side of the room if you think AI is the gift or the threat, and we'll go on break now. And so we went on break. I went to the gift side of the room saying AI is the greatest gift. I proposed my ideas, and they said, yes, Sam, you go up on stage. Okay, cool. It's all improvised. And I get up on stage, and for some reason, they're like, do you want to open it? Do you want to open the
Wow.
debate? And Peter was there, and he ended up on FaceTime with Elon Musk on the LED screen
I've
behind.
seen the visual, yeah, yeah.
I posted it online because it was funny. I didn't even know that was a surprise that Elon Musk would be on the screen behind. So I was definitely thinking, what am I going to say that's going to be profound? Because I'm in a room of C-suite executives, like around 500 people with multi-million-dollar businesses, a lot of AI experts in the room. What can I give of value that I've been given this
Stage, yeah, yeah.
position just to open up a very important debate and topic?
That's really amazing.
No pressure. And I was really proud of it because it was completely non-scripted, it was improvised, and I can't, of course, remember what I said because it was improvised. But basically, I was saying, I was into the etymology of words, and I broke down the word debate, which in Latin means to beat down the opponent. And then I went on this whole monologue about divisive thinking of humanity. And then I referenced Mo Gaudat, who spoke earlier at the conference, and he was talking about empathy and AI ethics, and the idea that, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But the idea is that AI is a mirror for us as a human species. So we need to improve as humans, is the bottom line of it.
Yeah,
So I referenced
absolutely.
him, and I think it was more an energy thing than what I really said, because what I noticed, which was the more profound thing, was not necessarily what I said, but the butterfly effect that happened after. And that's what's really beautiful about being a storyteller or a communicator, is watching other people be moved. So the energy in the room didn't become a debate anymore. Even though there were people on the threat side, they were coming up to the stage ready to promote fear-mongering narratives about AI. And the arguments completely dissipated, and we all ended up agreeing that we need to do better as a human species.
That's remarkable. That's
It was funny.
remarkable. And I think persuading someone of, like, they have that mindset, and then just in that moment, them coming together. I think that is the beauty of, I think, in it doesn't happen in most often. I think in the other world, a lot of people, when especially adults, when you have like beliefs and you just, I think it
Mm,
feels like if you contradict, even if you feel like you might have done something wrong,
mm,
it feels like your image is gonna get distorted. And I
mm.
think it takes a very brave person. Or kudos to people on the other side. They listen to you and the debates, and they kind of verge on the center. And that's the beauty of what humans can do, in that sense, that
Yes.
it's perfectly fine to have a different opinion, but shall
Yes.
we decide on a common goal and somehow work to it? And it's ideal, it's healthy to have different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
It's kind of funny because I see the world like we're all like, putting on these like superhero masks, but we're like rumor masks. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, oh, you
yeah,
too?
that's true.
Cool. Like,
That's
cool.
absolutely
Let's
true.
let's go and have tea. Like, because like that is literally what's going on a planetary level. Like, we are all in these positions, but I do, because I'm a creative. I see the common denominator, which is that we just want world peace. No, we don't want to fight each other. We want to progress as civilization. We want to evolve in consciousness. We want to live a fulfilled life. We want to fulfill our potential. We want to feel loved. We want to be loved. We want to love. And that, I believe, really sums up most of humanity, which is
Yeah.
who we are as a species. And that's why I have hope for humans.
So now I'm going to ask you completely something opposite to that. Do you have fear of anything that
Mm,
the work that you might be doing, it would not turn to be what you want it to be? Because I think
mm,
that kind of feeling evokes that you might set yourself a goal. It can be can be very big, 20, 30, 50 year
mm,
kind of a goal. Do you have a fear that that's something you really want to do, and these are the hurdles, and they're just
mm.
so profound? It's I just cannot even fathom. Like, I mean, I don't know. Trying to say that, oh, I'm not gonna let you explain. My mind just completely went crazy in like political sphere, like, because some things are completely feels like hopeless there. But
Yeah.
in terms of your sort of work with the Vinci project, and the whole universe is gonna
Mm,
expand into, what do you have any
mm.
fear with that project?
No, because I'm already proud of the fact that it's going to the moon. Even if it, let's say it doesn't land successfully, then the knowing that it was important enough and it moved enough people to send it to the moon already brings me such intrinsic satisfaction. And the people that I've met along this journey, knowing that there are humans out there that want to do good, brings me an innate sense of comfort. So I've made peace with whatever happens with this project. I already know to date that it's moved a lot of people, even if it's on a micro sense and not, let's say, 10x or 1000x yet. But
Yeah,
I believe all it takes is to move one person, and that already is an impact. And so I already have inner peace with that.
that's really remarkable. It it kind of takes me back to what we discussed about the Hitchhiker's Guide. It maybe the answer at the end is just a number. So it's the journey which was the real.
42.
Yeah, what's the meaning of life?
Yeah, exactly. 42.
And then you realize, oh, the whole journey was the actual thing rather than the
That's
answer
it.
of it.
And that's kind of I produced a music video a long time ago called "Take You Higher." If you check it out on my YouTube,
I'll definitely do.
that's the whole point of that video. It's all about the journey. It's not about the destination. So you have Vinci. It's like quite abstract, running through these green fields, and there's all these doors that are like mirrors, and a lot of them are closing on her. And then one door, which is like a portal, opens. So I believe with our life paths and journeys, everything will be what it's meant to be. And so there's a great book. I forgot what it's called, but it's by Gabriella Bernstein about like the universe has got your back. That's the book, and I believe in that. The idea that the universe is rooting for you, and like things will just pan out the way they're meant to pan out, and that's the best way to think. So it's
Remarkable.
yeah.
I love that. Speaking of books, we're heading to the close, and we have a tradition of asking the guests what is that one book that absolutely changed their life, and
Mm.
what we're gonna do. We're gonna take the book, physical copy, whatever. If you and an audience member anywhere in the world, you really resonate with the podcast, and you, I don't know, write comments or whatever. I want that book. We will connect with them, and we'll send the book to them.
Oh, I
So
love
Samantha,
that.
what is that one book that changed your life?
That's a beautiful idea. Congrats. The book. I like The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. It's
Amazing.
really cool because it helps you understand what it means to be creative. And it basically asserts that everyone is creative and how to tap into that flow state and realize this is the biggest revelation of all, that we're all interconnected and we're not separate, and ideas, they come and they go. So the idea is that we're like instruments and we need to tune ourselves to receive these beautiful ideas, which is the opposite of ego. It's not coming from us, it's coming from somewhere, the ether, I suppose. And it's like tuning your body to receive that and knowing that it flows, and then it's like kind of like giving birth. It's like it's like it grows up and it becomes its own thing, which is kind of like my story.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful for me reading that as I was writing the novel and thinking about all the different manifestations of this work, which is what excites me. It's more what will come of it post the story.
That's amazing. Samantha, lastly, for the people, what's the best way to find out about your work? What's the best way to connect with you?
So you can follow me on Vnccii.com, Vnccii.com. I'm across all social media platforms. And stay tuned around November because I'm going to be launching a new website relating to the book and
Amazing.
the whole universe.
And we'll hopefully, if there's going to be a live feed of the book launch, because we would love to show it to our audience as well.
Definitely. I'm happy to also maybe give some gifts away.
Oh,
I'm saying it
amazing.
here
That would be
first.
amazing. Samantha, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks so much. It's a pleasure.